It's the health emergency half of all Floridians now face.
But I also have a full-time job trying to manage being a diabetic.
It can be hereditary, but it can also be prevented.
If you could ramp it up some, how much would you burn? Could it be a significant component for weight loss?
And it is linked to a wide range of disease, including diabetes and cancer.
And there's been a lot of interest in finding the gene that will, the smoking gene, if you will.
Central Florida in the crosshairs in the fight against fat.
Fat or Fiction, The Diabetes Connection, is brought to you in part by Florida Hospital.
Won't you be good to yourself? And don't you feel like coming home? It'll be good.
I'm Ed Heiland at the UCF College of Medicine, the centerpiece in a research mecca at Lake Nona, being touted as Central Florida's medical city. While the main focus here is teaching the doctors of tomorrow, important research is also being done to treat and perhaps even cure diabetes. Even more fascinating is that a simple salad staple, lettuce, plays a key role in that research. We'll take a look at the groundbreaking initiative to build a better vaccine. Plus, we're also just steps away from the Sanford Burnham at Lake Nona, where we will stop in to see some amazing work being done at their Diabetes and Obesity Research Center. Sanford Burnham also partners with Florida Hospital Orlando, which is home to the Translational Research Institute. Not only do they also target obesity, but the TRI offers insights into individual and personal treatment options. In the next half hour, we will see exciting research underway right now in Central Florida to diagnose, prevent, and treat obesity, diabetes, and the conditions they trigger, including heart disease and cancer. Diabetes is a complex condition. The research is multifaceted, but we can start with a single word: fat. Yes, we all have some, but science is telling us that what kind of fat you have is as important as how much fat you have.
But I never used a phone booth.
In our image-obsessed society, being overweight is often the source of parody and ridicule. But it's only been in the last 50 years that fat has been seriously targeted as a major health concern.
Mr. Brown, also very much overweight, works at a desk, takes no exercise.
More recently, we've learned that putting on weight isn't always the result of poor eating habits or lack of exercise. Genetics and the type of fat your body carries play a major role. We once thought of fat like a big sponge, absorbing and growing with all those extra calories. But fat is more like an organ in the body. It secretes hormones. It affects how other organs work. There are also two kinds of fat: brown fat and white fat. Brown burns up calories. White is the fat bank and stores them. Either way, if your fat doesn't function properly, it causes what are called metabolic disorders. That includes weight gain, but also diabetes, and contributes to cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even Alzheimer's. We'll hear more about scientific research underway in just a moment. But first, we wanted to give you a better understanding of life with a metabolic disorder. In this case, diabetes. Alicia Callanan-Mandigo has more. Alicia?
Ed, there's some new research out suggesting some very simple solutions to what can be a very dangerous disease. One study says a structured exercise program can really help to control blood sugar levels. Another study says eating almonds can help to improve insulin sensitivity. Really interesting, since sugar and insulin are the two main keys to understanding diabetes.
When the body is working the way it's supposed to, the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates we eat are broken down into simpler nutrients that are easy to absorb. One of the carbohydrates is a form of sugar called glucose.
The pancreas starts making enzymes to further digest proteins. It makes hormones like insulin.
Insulin helps cells take glucose and convert it to energy. Insulin is secreted by the pancreas. After it's secreted, it attaches itself to cells throughout the body at places called insulin receptors.
Extra glucose will be stored in your liver. Some of it will be taken to the muscle, to the brain, other tissues to be directly used for source of energy. The mechanism of diabetes type 1, type 2 is different, in which type 1 people are deficient in insulin. At type 2, they have enough insulin, but the glucose transporters are resistant to insulin. End result, all the glucose which is absorbed from your intestine, it will build up in your blood and cannot be taken to the liver, to any organ of the body that needs it.
If insulin isn't performing properly within the body, a number of health problems can develop. University of Central Florida researcher Dr. Suaz Saleh is looking into diabetes and eye health.
The retina is a single layer of cells which highly vascularized. That's the only part of the eye which is vascularized. Chronic hyperglycemia can not only cause swelling in those blood vessels, it might end up causing detachment of the retina. And when retina starts detaching, people start seeing black spots. When a large number of the retina detaches, that's when, if it detaches all at once or sudden, people may lose vision all of sudden. And that's why people with diabetes, they should have their vision checked at least once a year, whether they have symptoms or not.
The good news for diabetics is that there are new research discoveries happening all the time, from simple lifestyle changes like eating almonds to new provocative drug protocols. Ed?
Thanks, Alicia. Once diagnosed, life with diabetes requires understanding the condition and how your body reacts to it and the medication you must take to maintain normal blood sugar levels. It's a lifestyle Gary Balinoff has faced almost every day of his life. Even in a crazy housing market, Gary Balinoff is a successful broker, but few of his clients know he has another challenge.
I've got a full-time job running a real estate company, but I also have a full-time job trying to manage being a diabetic.
Gary has been taking insulin shots for his type 1 diabetes since the age of 3. 53 years later, he still must carry an insulated pouch with him containing his injection supplies at all times. Diabetes presents some challenges you might not even think about. For example, when Gary would like to show houses to prospective clients, he'd want to take them to the neighborhood, but he'd also have to schedule his appointments so they didn't conflict with his need for medication. Diabetes can be anything but predictable.
So you will have peaks and valleys depending on when you eat, how much you eat, how much insulin you take. My diabetic specialist has put me on a routine where the 4 shots are varying insulin amounts throughout the day.
Now for the syringe.
As these old health films show, back when Gary was first diagnosed, the needles were bigger and the whole syringe was boiled and reused. Doctors had few tools to measure how effective the dosage was, or even when the patient was experiencing dangerous blood sugar spikes. It happened to Gary more than once.
I think it's wise for any diabetic to say, have people around you who are at least aware what to do if you have an emergency kind of situation, and have something either available or nearby.
But today, he can keep a close eye on his blood at any time with a finger prick and electronic monitoring. The recent advances in technology and research give him hope.
It will help dramatically in the care of the 18 to 30 million, depending on what the latest numbers are. I know that there's been some degree of uncertainty because there are just so many undiagnosed people who are borderline type 2, but probably should be on some kind of regimen, and wiping that out may not be possible within our lifetime, but it might be.
Gary has reason for optimism. Research underway right now here in Central Florida is changing the way we see and treat metabolic disorders like diabetes. Coming up, what if insulin no longer needed refrigeration? That's just one goal of research using lettuce instead of needles and syringes to treat patients. Plus, digging deeper into understanding your fat. It turns out every patient is unique, and science is finding ways to customize your treatment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now that we have taken a look at what obesity and diabetes is all about, let's weigh in on the research. We began at the Translational Research Institute for Metabolism and Diabetes, a partnership between Sanford Burnham at Lake Nona and Florida Hospital Orlando. It's here that what is accomplished in the lab can be put to work for people.
Calorimetry. So a calorie is a unit of heat.
Dr. Stephen Smith is a medical pioneer. He's part of a team taking the work from years of laboratory research and looking for ways to make it work for us.
We've done a pretty good job of curing diabetes in mice. Okay, we haven't done that yet in people.
As scientific director for the Translational Research Institute, Dr. Smith is focused on fat.
That's the exciting part about the science. Right now we're understanding more and more about how fat, and dysfunctional fat, leads to the development of cancer, cardiovascular disease.
Notice he said dysfunctional fat.
So one of the tools that we're using in a research setting is the ability to learn about an individual's metabolism, whether they're good at burning fat or not. We know that the inability to burn fat is a risk factor for developing both obesity and diabetes in the future.
The need to study the link between obesity and diabetes has grown so fast. The Florida Hospital is already building the first standalone center in Florida to bring together patients and researchers in one place to study metabolic disorders. The state-of-the-art 54,000 square foot translational research facility will be located at Florida Hospital's Health Village in Orlando.
The second floor will include a biorepository, an overnight testing suite on the second floor here, where people will come and stay for days, maybe even weeks, to probe their metabolism more deeply.
In addition to research and testing, the Translational Research Institute will utilize new tools, some originally designed for things like scanning bone density or soft tissue injury, but now tweaked to give new insights into how the body works.
These tools allow us to probe metabolism at the biochemical level. For example, understanding how much fat builds up in the liver in certain diseases.
The TRI will bring scientists, clinicians, and the procedures necessary to facilitate translational research together under one roof. The new three-story facility will help researchers better understand why one treatment option for a patient who suffers from diabetes or obesity may not work for another patient. The new facility is expected to be completed by the end of this year. In the quest to find answers to fight diabetes, one man is looking in his garden. UCF professor Henry Daniel has drawn interest and millions in research dollars to create a new way to deliver vaccines, including the insulin needed by diabetics. Out with the needles. If successful, your treatment may be delivered using a common vegetable.
And what we have done is to fix the root cause of the problem. The current treatment, of course, is to simply inject insulin to regulate blood glucose levels. Here, we are trying to fix the basic cause for the insulin-dependent diabetes.
The Danielle lab dehydrates and powders the lettuce, which is then put into capsules. Once swallowed, the lettuce acts to protect the insulin protein from acids in the stomach, but still allows stomach bacteria to chew on the plant's cells and release the protein.
The immune system recognizes that this is our own protein, and then it switches the immune response and, in essence, develops a cure for the onset of diabetes.
Amazing as that sounds, the powdered lettuce also eliminates the problem of keeping insulin cold in storage and transportation. Plus, no more injections. While Dr. Daniel's work is focused on type 1 diabetes, he is confident the same delivery method, lettuce, might one day help all diabetics control the condition.
Once that oral delivery in animal models, when we do this for 6 to 8 weeks, we observed that these animals stop the immune attack and then start producing normal levels of insulin.
Dr. Daniel's research is almost ready to move into clinical studies. The Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, JDRF, is funding key preclinical studies to look at different doses. The Food and Drug Administration needs to know what is the lowest dose, what is the highest dose, and also what are the consequences if someone takes too much of the powdered lettuce. And another vote of confidence for Dr. Daniels' work, as he recently received a nearly $800,000 grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to look at ways his lettuce can be used to develop and deliver polio and other critically needed vaccines. From the greenhouse, we head to the laboratory. Until cures are found, are there ways to make existing medication work better or more efficiently? Among the many projects underway at the Sanford Burnham at Lake Nona Diabetes and Obesity Center is an effort to understand why some patients actually become resistant to their insulin. Their body fights it. So the strategy is to try and find ways to resensitize tissues and get insulin working for you again.
We actually work on a hormone that was identified for its ability to stimulate the production of insulin, but what we've found is that it also plays a role in telling the organs that normally respond to insulin how well they should respond. So it's sort of a double whammy approach that we're looking at.
The hormone is called GLP-1, and for unknown reasons, it only works when glucose levels are elevated, a sort of natural safety valve that is secreted in the gut. It affects receptors in both the pancreas and the brain, so that becomes another part of the research.
One person's insulin resistance or one person's type 2 diabetes is not necessarily the same as another person who is insulin resistant or type 2 diabetic. So we talk a lot about personalized medicine.
This silicone model represents 5 pounds of fat. Now, most of us would like to lose a lump like this, but researchers are finding there is much more to fat than meets the eye. But wait, at least one kind of fat is good for us. Brown fat is a remnant of our caveman days and burns calories like crazy. It's what helped keep us warm before clothing and fireplaces lulled the brown fat to sleep, and other white fat began piling on.
How much brown adipose tissue do adult humans have? How much does it contribute to their daily energy expenditure? If you could ramp it up some, how much would you burn? Could it be a significant component for weight loss?
So it sounds simple, just take something and rev up the brown fat.
There's a lot of interest in the so-called exercise pill.
But Dr. Phillipwood says while the research is promising, flipping body switches can be just as likely to produce unhealthy results.
If you look at the entire physiology of exercise and the prevention of obesity with exercise, there's parts of it that just cannot be replaced by a pill because many of the processes the pill would have to induce to replace it often are toxic.
The Sanford Burnham team has more questions than answers in its quest, including why do beta cells, which produce insulin in the pancreas, fail? How important is fat burning to maintaining insulin sensitivity? Plus, how to overcome new forms of insulin resistance that are now appearing in obese children. Speaking of kids, when we return, what can we do to help the next generation before they get to the point of needing medication? Details coming up. We all know that reducing food intake and increasing activity is a prescription for health. While that's tough medicine for some adults to follow, what if you could encourage children to set a healthy goal of, say, living to 100? That's the idea behind Florida Hospital for Children's Healthy 100 Kids program. It's not what you might expect to see young people doing during their play hours. Teens like Noah working on his lats, while Ariel is getting toned on another workout machine. Even 11-year-old Allie knows her way around this gym. count them all as being part of the Healthy 100 Kids program.
Because I want to stay here for a long time and keep on doing this because it's a lot of fun.
We are seeing these kids coming in with what are actually adult illnesses. And they're coming in very heavy, if you will, heavy of the spirit, heavy of all of the world and the diagnoses that have been thrown to them. And once they've come through our program, in just a matter of weeks, we've seen their attitudes much lighter.
Healthy 100 Kids is not just an exercise program, it's a lifestyle change with the goal of living to be 100.
As we then reach our hands forward as far as they allow you today.
Some kids take classes like Lindy's yoga group to help build on the mind-body experience.
The goal with this entire program isn't one change that's going to make a small impact in a short amount of time. It's a small change that's going to make a large impact throughout the duration of their life.
But for the program to be successful, it must involve the big kids, parents like Jeannie Blair, who also hits the gym with her son Noah.
I try to keep active and I try to be healthy. And I figure the best way for Noah to be healthy is to see the example of his parents. And I can't exactly tell him to do something if I'm not doing it myself.
Sheila Nadeau has seen a marked change in her daughter, Kristen, whose activity level before starting yoga was
nothing, because she loved TV. She loved TV. Between that and the computer, we had a couch potato. And after the program and they gave her the pedometer, like I say, we had a different child.
It's hoped the interconnectivity between nutrition, fitness, relaxation, relationships, and body image will lay the foundation for new household habits for the entire family. Well, thanks for joining us here on Fat or Fiction, the Diabetes Connection. As you've seen in our program, the research is underway here at the Medical City at Lake Nona, and it's very promising. New clues into the mechanism of fat and its role in disease are being discovered every day. But as the work continues, the best treatment for metabolic syndrome is still lifestyle change. A little more exercise, a little less food could mean many more years. And isn't that everyone's goal? For UCF TV, I'm Ed Heiland.
Fat or Fiction, the Diabetes Connection, was brought to you in part by Florida Hospital.
Won't you be good to yourself? And don't you feel